Thanks for joining us. You're still on The Price, reaching live from the nation's capital. And now we've gotten to the part where I get to invite our guest analyst. And of course, I'm all smiles this morning because it looks like it's going to be hot in the studio today. You know, when we have a legal practitioner on this thing, they always try to be defensive. But today it looks like we're going to catch Uthman Tochukwu, a legal practitioner. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Mercy.
All right, before we get into that, how are you excited that Labour, of course, cancelled the old strike and everything? They were able to reach an agreement with the federal government, and of course, many persons have said, "Oh, it looks like the federal government is on their 10 toes and things are working out and progressing." I'd like to get your opinion about that before we get into the national dailies proper.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me this morning, Mercy. I think partly yes, I'm happy that they were able to have a tentative, forestall of the intended strike, but that's not actually enough. We should be able to look at how we can permanently end this strike issue and then address the real issue that is facing Nigeria. Like I used to say, I'm actually more interested in finding solutions to the problem, rather than sticking to keep on discussing about the problem. I hope that the MOU that have been signed will not go like every other MOU that has always been signed by Labour and the federal government, because if you observe the trends of what has been happening between the Labour Union and the federal government, it's like when a baby is crying because you collected an item from him or her and you decide to call her and pat her back. Stop crying, I'm going to give you biscuit later, and they will just go back. This has been the trend over the years. That's and we're still on that same pattern. It's a good thing that they were able to find a tentative solution to it, but I'm more interested in looking at the permanent solutions to this strike issue.
Okay, I like the fact that you mentioned permanent solutions, because some persons have said, oh, whatever the federal government has reached with them is not a long-term thing, because of course they first started with 35,000 naira for 6 months, but then at the end of the day they came out and say, okay, we will increase this. But then if you look at it on the long run, this is not even fixing the said issue. What do you think the federal government should actually do to actually reach an agreement at this point? Because it looks like, oh, they are on their 10 toes. They want this to work. They want the economy to work. They don't want the strike to hold. But then it looks like something needs to happen, and it's not just going to be a 6-month thing.
Yeah, I'm actually not acquiesced with the fact that the federal government has to make it 6 months, because the problem will still persist. It didn't change the fact that the price of things has skyrocketed. Even the gas now that we're relying on, that it has reduced now, has gone up. The things I should expect the federal government to do now is to permanently introduce this new minimum wage and try to make it in a way that it trickles down to all the civil servants, regardless of your level. Everybody should benefit on the minimum wage, and then trying to inject these funds that we have saved up from oil subsidy, and that also would go a long way in making sure that things become normalized within the economy. And also, what is happening to Dangote refinery? These are very serious issues that government should be very conscious of. To activate that refinery, if we cannot use the money we have saved from fuel, or we anticipate to save from fuel subsidy to revive one of our, at least one of those 6 dormant refineries that federal government used to have, we should also see how we can synergize with Dangote to activate this his refinery in Lagos, so that we can begin to see the effect on the economy. Because as long as that refinery does not commence operation, this economy will take too long before things will normalize.
Okay, before we move forward, I'd like to, of course, tell our viewers at home that our phone lines are on for you to call in and making your contributions in 60 seconds, please. And before you call, remember to turn down the volume of your TV set, or you step away from your TV set. And now let's get into today's national dailies proper. I'll start with Nigerian Tribune, where the lead story, of course, says first-timers can't contest for Senate President Deputy. That's Senate amends rule. Another of the paper has it as Senate bars first-timers from contesting for Senate presidency. And then it begs the question, what is really going on? And now we have Senator Akpabio. Of course, he's the first-timer in the Senate House, and then he's the Senate presidency. Then we've been hearing rumors and questions saying, is this all about him? Is something going on the ground? Is this about politics and all of that? But then why would you bar first-timers from contesting for the seat of the Senate president?
To start with, I want to draw our attention that the law does not work in retrospect.
Okay.
Akpabio had already, become the president and the chair of the 10th Senate. Be that as it may, the introduction of this new law now, if it has become a law within the rules, I don't know. But if it has, it's not going to affect his current position.
Yes,
maybe after his tenure in the 11th assembly, they are going to activate it. But the problem now is that how does that even help the affairs of Nigerians? It is legislative politics. And to that extent, I think I just have my personal reservations on the fact that Akpabio, for instance, was a former governor for 8 years, a former minister of the Federal Republic for another 7 to 8 years or so. And then such person who have garnered such experience, find his way into the Senate, and you are now saying he's a first-timer. What is the business in the Senate that somebody who have held the position of a governor for 8 years, minister of the Federal Republic for another 8 years, cannot, administer the, business of the Senate? I don't think that is too important to pay attention to and make it as part of their rules. The reason being that if you become a Senate president, if there's any technical issues that may need or require your expertise, you have more than 20 to 25 SAs that could advise you on some of those. Now, look at it from another dimension. These people, their primary function is lawmaking, according to the Constitution, Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution, right? Most of these people are not even lawyers, but they engage in lawmaking. How do they achieve that? Because they need to call lawyers who are expertise in drafting of legislative agendas and all the rules, for them to do that behind the camera, and then they will now come and introduce it as a bill in the House and forward to the president. So all this put together would not, would tell you that it's just legislative politics, like I call it.
Could it be called a show-off? Because, of course, people tag the 9th Assembly as a rubber stamp assembly, and, of course, that was the name everybody gave that particular assembly. And now, could it be that, let's show that we're working? Because if you ask a layman, and if you ask me personally, I do not feel there's any reason for you to buy a first-timer. It's just like saying, you can't become a president without becoming a governor or a senator or something. Is that something we need to
that does not actually breed competence. The fact that you are a long-timer or a short-timer, it does not actually mean that you are going to be competent.
Okay, all right, please hold that thought. Let's quickly take our first caller for the day. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Beautiful morning to you, Babajide, Barrister Uthman. Good morning. You are on to SMD from Lagos.
All right, SMD from Lagos. Thank you for calling. Please join in on the conversation.
And my appreciation as usual for KAFTAN TV for giving us this ample opportunity to say our mind.
You're welcome.
Also bringing out resource personnel to lay their issues, at least to educate Nigerians on the issue on ground. Thank you very much, Barrister. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let me quickly respond to the issue of this federal government and an organized labor negotiation. Remember, MOU were signed, and then NLC TUC accept to suspend the strike for 30 days.
For 30 days, that's correct.
And also, let me quote from the last statement of the negotiation, and I quote: "This memorandum shall be filed with the relevant court of competent jurisdiction within 1 week." Within 1 week. Now the question is, in case if the federal government failed to make some implementation in the MOU, what will happen? Even though I must have to commend the NLC for the first time. In that MOU there are almost 16 items, including the tertiary education issue, and then the assessment for the refineries and so on and so forth. Honestly speaking, this is the first time we've seen this, and we must have to recommend the NLC for doing that. And then I hope and pray something will come out. Remember, I always get mentioned. For me, it's too early to assess government and credit the government. For instance, To my own understanding, 30 days is okay. So let us wait and see. I mean, 6 months is okay for the government to make sure that they put face on ground. But for 100 days, 200 days to assess government, I don't think we are okay with that. But let us wait and see. Then lastly, the issue of newcomers in the Senate, they would not be leaders. For instance, what brings this issue? We are talking about national politics. Okay. We are talking about the nation and the nation. These are the policy makers that almost 220 million Nigerians rely on to make things pass, to make things go well to this nation. Are we still on democratic process of being a politician from this party to this party? When it comes to national issue, you keep your partisan issue aside. You keep your differences aside. You keep your tribal issues aside and face the reality. That is why even these our leaders, they were still on their grave, but we are still celebrating them as heroes. The late Nnamdi Azikiwe, the late Awolowo, the late Manang Kano, the A.S. Saka. When it comes to nation building, they keep their party affiliation aside. They keep their tribal differences aside. They face the reality, which is the nation. Are we for it? Then if that should be the case, let them put a law that a two-time governor will contest as a senator. Let them do that. If they want to do it for Nigerians, let them do that. Thank you very much. And also, they should put it, if you want to contest as a two-time governor, go back to your local government council to contest as a chairman. To contest as a chairman. At least, if you want to bring development in the nation. So, for me, this is something that in fact, 63 years of independence, 24 years of uninterrupted democracy, and we're still at this leadership position in the Senate. It's too shame. Honestly speaking, I don't expect this coming out from the Senate. We are expecting of national development, not partisan issue, not position issue or something of that nature. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm SMB from Lagos, and I wish you all the best.
All right, thank you, SMB, for that contribution.
Yeah, well, it's mostly submitting to my line of thought, like I've said before. It's unnecessary regardless of whether or not you were a first-timer or a late-timer. What should be the fulcrum should be competence, right, and ability to deliver, because you have other principal officers like your SAs who would be advising you on some of these issues. And the reason why I alluded to the fact that even their primary functions as lawmakers, they are not lawyers who knows the intricacies of lawmaking and legislative drafting and all of that, but they still make the laws. And nobody is complaining. So I think it's more of their own selfish political interest rather than our own nation building or national development.
But speaking about selfish interest, most of these politicians, there's been the saying that, of course, most of them are there for their selfish interests. And they said, oh, even if anybody gets there, you put yourself first. But then SMD has said something that caught my attention. He said, there are some people that, irrespective of their religion, their tribe, they come together and say, oh, we have a common goal, which is nation building. Do you think this is actually the main aim of them, saying, oh, a fourth-timer cannot contest for the seat of the Senate presidency?
No, on the face of it, if you look at it, actually, I think otherwise. Okay. Because it doesn't actually matter whether you're a first-timer or not. The question is, are you ready to do the job? If you are ready to do the job, you are definitely going to assemble the best people who knows the job to put you through the job. Okay. What is there that the Senate president is doing? The eyes have it, the nail have it, and you knock the maze, and that's all. What is there? If you are going to do, there's no any, a kind of a special duty that a Senate president ought to be specifically trained on to do.
Okay, speaking about nothing special, now I'd like you to take this question in one breath. Reps to probe 15.5 trillion naira pension asset status of 10 trillion naira loan to federal government. That's one. Now, the second one, Tinubu seeks Senate's confirmation of 3 new ministerial nominees. My question, the government is going through a lot of economic reshuffle right now. Are we looking to getting 3 more ministers to make it 48? Isn't that a lot? Before you answer that, let's quickly take this caller. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Good morning.
Please, your name and where you're calling from.
It's Collins from Benue State.
Okay, all right. Collins from Benue State. Please, can you step away from your TV set or turn down the volume?
even took my light. There is no light now.
Okay, all right. Please join in on the conversation then.
I was just watching the program before they took the light just now.
Okay, all right.
I want to speak briefly to the analyst in the studio.
Okay.
You see, let me tell him now. Like, if it happens that maybe he's going around the whole nation now, there is no road network. I don't know whether he's getting me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There is no road network in the entire nation now.
Okay.
That you can move as short as 5 kilometers without seeing a very deep gallop on the road. What are we saying in essence? Yes, let's forget about party politics. We are in this game. We are in this party. But if you look to it now, right from the last tenure, which is 8 years, and we are entering into another tenure now, which maybe 2027 might determine. And notwithstanding, they are looking forward because if we are to be the president, I know something good will happen. But you look to the half of Akpabio now. Akpabio was once the governor, he was once the minister, he was once, now he's a senator and also a senate president. If it were where things are not to be forgiven, let's be realistic. There are certain issues he was having on ground before APC came into power. That was when he left PDP. If it happens that we should go rightly on getting hold of all the corrupt politicians, then he should be one of them. So there are so many things we need to just forget and let things go well. But my most problem now is about the road network. Thank God for the refinery of 18. We know, like actually, was it last week? I happened to tell people that we will not have anything that will be good coming out of the labor. Thank God the president was back home before the last meeting. We see how things we are going now. We pray that let those things just work out just like the way they say. Let it not become a manifesto whereby so many of them are giving and it's not working out.
Okay.
So we are looking up to especially the road network. As I'm talking to you now, from Benue down to the east, no road. From Benue down to Taraba, going down to Jalingo and all whatnot, getting to Miduguri, there is no road. From Kogi now down to Ondo, where we used to pass very short, there is nothing there. And because of all this road network that is not good, so many of our passengers are being kidnapped because there is no way that the vehicle could meet at least a little speed level and make them escape so many things. So let the focus be on especially the road network.
Okay.
And towards our refineries. I know that the creation of jobs and every other thing, when one is done, then we begin to look to the other.
Okay.
Because the refinery is not yet done, so we can't talk about the Texas and the sugar industry and the rest of them. That's why the fact so many of them have hacked into it because they make it a business of the day. But we just pray God should just intervene.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Collins from Benue State.
I think I'll quickly comment that I'm not. It's important for him or people watching to know that I don't speak for government. Okay. I'm here in my own capacity as just a public affairs analyst and a lawyer, private practitioner in Abuja. Okay. So whatever I say here is my personal view and does not represent the view of government or anybody. Okay. Yes. Having said that, when he talked about Akpabio being one of being corrupt and all of that, I think that case has been dispensed with. Akpabio was charged and they didn't find anything against him. Okay. I'm a lawyer. I followed that case, and I wouldn't be here to be guided by sentiment and what is not provable. So we are speaking of facts. Akpabio was questioned by EFCC, and that matter was dispensed with, and he was set free. Okay. So, and that was it. It ended there. So I'm not aware that he's having any new case now against him. So that's
okay. All right. Back to the question.
Yeah, you talked about having new ministers. Also putting together what the economic situation is. Are we really going to continue, having these people? Is it not going to be too much for Nigeria?
Yeah, because the cost of governance itself.
See, the truth is that if you look at the ministerial positions, it is within the discretion of the president to appoint ministers. And some states, as we speak here, don't have ministers yet. Kaduna State is one of those states. I remember when former Governor El-Rufai was dropped, there was no replacement. And some state has two. Some state has even three, like Ogun State that produce Bosun Tijani, Dele Alake, and some of them. They have about three people from Ekiti State. From Ekiti, right? Yes, okay, yeah. But I'm aware that Ogun has 3 ministers. Okay. Niger has 2 ministers. And some of that other states like that. Delta has 1. Kaduna does not have at all. Okay. Right? So if you look at all these things, there is need to fill in the gap constitutionally. Okay. Because they are entitled to it. They can even go to court to demand for their own slot. Okay. In the cabinet. In the cabinet. Yes, because the 36 states are supposed to be represented in the Federal Executive Council. Okay. And that is what the president has just done. Okay. If we want to talk about the real, cost of governance and how to go about it in cutting the cost of governance, let us start from the convoys that these people use and several, presidential athletes.
And too many aides, essay to the president on this, essay to the minister on this, minister essays.
This is where the conversation should start, and not where there is a constitutional mandate.
No, it still matters a lot, because now we have states that have 3 people representing them. Why not cut down those ones to 2 and then have other states? We have 36 states excluding the FCT, right? 36 plus FCT, that's 37. But then in this case, we have a state that has not been fully represented. And of course, we understand the Balarabe part. But the 2 others, where do they come in?
You see, when you look at the issues with regards to ministerial appointment, right? You also look at it from, you cannot remove politics from politicians. While you look at it from the legal perspective, you must have to also talk about the political aspect of it. No matter how you look at it, politicians must play politics, and you can't have governance without politics. So you can't divorce the 2 from each other. You can't separate them. So while they concede to playing their constitutional mandate by fulfilling that requirement to get 1-1 from across the board, they are also going to consider the political aspect of it. There are some compensatory positions that you cannot do without. Some people have played a very vital role in promoting and making you to be who you are today. You cannot divorce the fact that you must have to look at where to fix these people and for them to come and make their own contributions. You also need to look at it from another perspective, which is not politics this time, which is also not law, but on the areas of expertise. Take it, for example, the current Minister of Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani. He's not a politician. He's not known to belong to any political party. He's even known to be anti-Tinubu at a particular time. But he was still nominated and given appointment as a Minister of the Federal Republic because he is believed to be a technocrat in his field. And he's recognized for that. So some of these things, when you put them together, there are some certain hard decisions that you just have to take, regardless of how difficult it may appear or how unpopular such decisions may appear. These are just the issues that surround some of these things.
Okay, all right.
But for costs of governance, it's a very serious conversation that we must begin to have.
Okay, speaking about cost of governance, it's going to take me to Ondo State, where the deputy governor, of course, was the city governor for, I think, 3 months when the governor went on medical leave, right? And then now he's been charged that said he used 100 million naira to buy cars or SUVs or something.
Who approved it?
Well, that begs the question. And now they've moved to impeach him. Now, Ondo Assembly directs Chief Justice to constitute 7-man panel on deputy governor. Okay, apart from the fact that some persons have come out to say it's probably politicians politicking, but then it begs the question, this is the 2nd deputy governor you guys are looking to impeach. What is really going on?
Well, I've not been able to to get the full gist of what is happening in Ondo State. But I still know it's more of political than normal. Because if you observe, it's very difficult for a deputy governor, even the governor, not even deputy this time, it's very difficult for a governor or deputy governor to make use of funds without recourse to the state assembly, right? So this time, it will be difficult to say that a deputy governor has spent such amount of money and the state assembly does not know about it. So for even state assembly to have a question on that money, it's an indictment on the state assembly on itself, because there is no way he would have spent that amount of money without your approval. So they still have a question to answer. Is it that some certain principal officers within the house has compromised their position to corner one side and approve a document, or what? So these are questions that they need to answer. And I have also learned that the deputy governor had gone to court to stop the State House of Assembly from proceeding in impeaching him. Okay. We are still waiting to see how that will come out, because the issue is still pending before the court now. Okay. So I may not have to make much comment so that it wouldn't amount to sub judice. Okay. Yes.
All right then. Now speaking about, looks like we're going to be moving from the green chamber to the red chamber today. So now let's move to the Senate, where they've rejected CBN loans and they've won the precedent against illegal spending. It still brings us back to the 48 ministers we're going to have. I'd like to get your opinion about this in maybe 30 seconds before we get into my main topic for today.
Every ministries in Nigeria have a certain budget that is allocated to them. So I think everything that government spent goes into the budget. Okay. So whatever happens, it is still the National Assembly that is going to approve that.
But remember, sorry to cut you short. Remember that the president promised 100 billion naira for CNG buses. So now this is what the Senate has rejected, and they've said they are cautioning against illegal spending. But now that the president has made a promise to Nigerians, when does it start?
You see, the problem is this. It is very important for us to understand how these senators operate. Okay. When it doesn't affect them, they want to cry for Nigerians. Okay. When it affects them, it's no longer about us. A senator that has been sitting for the last 4 to 8 years in the Senate is expected to have enough vehicle that will be okay for him.
That's correct.
But anytime there is a new Senate inaugurated, like the 10th Senate, they will have official vehicles bought across all the 360 members in all the 180 members in the Senate, and as well as goes to the 360 members in the green chambers. So if you look at these mindless expenditures, right, where do you now argue, or where do you get the fulcrum to base your argument in terms of fighting for the citizens when the executive want to make some stake in terms of spending? So the issue is that if we are going to be sincere about government spending, it affects both the legislature and the executive. The only people that is not benefiting here is the judiciary, which ought to even be looked at. If you allow the judiciary to earn as much as the legislature and the executive, I'm telling you, we may not be having this issue of corruption or some lawyers trying to bribe some judges and all of that. All those stories will not have been coming up. But you cannot imagine in a situation where a justice of the Supreme Court or a High Court judge will be broke and will be asking friends and family for funds. It's unacceptable where the legislature and the executive are buoyant and living their life normal, and another separate.
And that's why it's easy for the judiciary to be compromised.
Exactly. So these are issues that we really need to look at. We cannot exclude the discussion and then have it to separate from the other institution. We must have to holistically address the issue. Yes.
Okay, all right. Away from that, now let's get started. The kicker of the story says Tinubu's credentials, and of course that's hot cake on everywhere right now, not on social media, of course, everybody's mouth. APC lampoons Atiku.
Chicago State University.
Yeah, Chicago State University. Ex-vice president said to submit documents in Supreme Court. Before we get deeper, are these documents even a legal tender for the Supreme Court? Since the Supreme Court is supposed to actually review what the tribunal is submitting, how possible is it for him to actually pass this forward?
Yeah, I think now you are talking my area now, and I should be speaking with authority, being a lawyer, and of course a legal practitioner who is into legal practice. First of all, as a general rule, the Supreme Court is an appellate court, in the sense that it only takes an appeal that comes from the Court of Appeal,
yeah,
right? That is one side of its jurisdiction. We can also talk about the original jurisdiction where they don't sit as appellate court. But in this instance, Supreme Court will be sitting as appellate court. Supreme Court also is not a court of evidence where you come and tender evidence, right, for Supreme Court to review. The Supreme Court is only concerned with what happened at the court below, that is contained at the record, in the record of appeal. But in a very special circumstance, the Supreme Court can take in new evidence. In a very special circumstance. And there are criteria, that is court's condition precedents that must be satisfied for such evidence to be taken at the level of Supreme Court when they are sitting as appellate court. They can admit the evidence. But this time, whether the evidence the former Vice President Soto to tender before the Supreme Court at this time, whether it will pass that test is subject for the Supreme Court to determine. I'm not going to delve into that issue. But if it has no evidence to tender, whether the evidence can be taken by the Supreme Court, the answer is yes. But whether the Supreme Court will accept to take it is a different issue entirely, which is subject to for the court to determine. Yes. I don't know how relevant that evidence is going to be. Right? I don't know whether it has satisfied that requirement as provided by law. But the fact is that the Supreme Court can take in new evidence once it satisfies those requirements.
Okay, I like that part you mentioned, because I was just going to read the next line where the point said, articles joining to Chicago Varsity, a fruitless exercise. Ex-Vice President a loser. That's coming from APC. Of course, we know that we expect normal bands back and forth between parties. But then the last part that caught my attention, President's documents released by Varsity have vindicated us. That's coming from PDP.
In what sense?
Well, they never stated here. I believe if you read page 2 of the Punch newspaper, maybe they have some cogent things that is in that document, but then of course they've not released
these are speculations.
So we're in suspense right now.
Yeah.
But do you think anything could happen? I know you lawyers hate to assume, to say, oh, I don't know what the English you guys call it. But then do you think, peradventure, let me use that word, is it possible the documents can actually push through to the Supreme Court at this point?
That's what I've just said.
And even if it pushes through, how does that change the judgment? How does that affect?
This is a question of fact.
Okay.
And it would be preemptive of us to be talking about what lies ahead. One, the document has not even been tendered. Two, whether the document will be tendered and acceptable is a different thing. And even if the Supreme Court, assuming without conceding, accepts the documents and admit it into evidence, of what probative value will it have on the matter that is before the Supreme Court? All these issues are issues we are going to wait patiently and then see how Supreme Court are going to dispense with it, and then we can learn on how it will also enrich our political jurisprudence. But as for now, I'm not going to delve into what is going on social media that is in contrary to what is submitted to INEC and all of that. All those things, as far as I'm concerned, they are all noises that we should not be paying attention to until the matter gets to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court makes pronouncement on it. Okay,
all right. Speaking about that, let's quickly move away to what is going on in the immediate society. 8 abducted NYC members, they're still in captivity, and that's actually a sad one, if you ask me. And now to 30 drowned in fresh Kebbi boat accident. I mean, it has happened over time, but then happening now. Is this something the federal government needs to do differently? Because now it looks like serving the country is even a serious chaos. I've had issues of a friend that failed to travel to a certain state in Nigeria by road, but at the end of the day, she needed to fly from Abuja to one neighboring state. But do you believe that between that neighboring state to where she was going to, she was actually kidnapped? Is this something the federal government needs to do differently at this point?
That's one of those persons that is of the view that at this moment NYSC has outlived its usefulness. There's what is called a generational gap, right, in terms of growth and development. At this point, it's important for NYSC to sit down and review its curriculum and see how it can reflect more of skills acquisition than just travel and know this tribe and know that tribe. We have known a lot about I can read about Yoruba people in my comfort zone and tell you more about their culture. We know more about China, we know more about Russia without necessarily going to Russia or going to China.
Okay.
I think on the basis of this, NYSC should begin to look at how they are going to address the issue of the scheme, to see how it can reflect within 1 year. Somebody should be able to acquire a skill that will help him to be self-employed, especially on the fact that our higher education curriculum does not serve its purpose at this point. So, and the security of NYSC should also be looked into. They should be need to provide enough security for these people. Anytime they want to move, there should be a special security that is provided to take care of their movement from point A to their destination. And this issue should be looked at for sure. I don't know why the DG of NYSC has not been able to propose this, but it is important that they should use this point to learn how to do things differently, because this is not how it used to be in the past. And the fact that this thing is now new to the system, they should also need to sit back and draw another board and see how they can address the issue.
So speaking about insecurities and killings, 22 drowned as boat capsizes in Niger, 6 bodies recovered. And now the part that caught my attention, of course, this one is actually trending on social media. 2 killed as last mile officials driver clash. Local government officials race, which is actually a very sad one. There's always one issue or the other with last mile officials and drivers. Even not just that, we have VIOs enter people's car, and then you see cases of VIO officials running into people or running into ditches because they are pursuing someone. Is there something that needs to be done different? I feel like there should be a whole rejuvenation of all of these people. But before you answer that question, this caller has been on the line. Let's quickly take the call. Hi, good morning. Thank you for calling the press. Good morning.
Good morning, please.
All right, please, your name and where you're calling from.
Hello?
Hello, good morning. Your name.
Good morning.
Please, can you step away from your TV sets?
I've already taken off the volume.
All right, please, your name and where you're calling from, please.
My name is Peter Shakume, and I'm calling you from Benue State.
All right, Peter, please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds.
Please, thank you so much for the program.
Right.
I first of all want to also send my regards to the eloquent guest you have in the house, talking about the barrister. I have just few observations to make, and the observations are primarily on his presentation. I like his mode of presentation, especially on the point of NYSC being having lived its usefulness.
Thank you.
I think it's a very valid point he has made from there. How to take that point forward to make the NYSC scheme understand that actually as it is now, issues bedeviling the youth development are much more than that of trying to study other people's culture and get acquainted with them for national development. We have other issues that should deal with national development as we move forward, other than having to know about cultures and how to move them to build the nation. Already here we are. Having come after the aftermath of the civil war, we are here. So we should be living in today. We shouldn't be living in the past, as the scheme had earlier speculated. So, but again, lastly, before I drop, let me also commend him and find out from him why he should be having Tochukwu and Uthman. It's all on his name.
I'm sure everybody is wondering why.
Having a national coloration in his name. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe he's representing the NYSC.
Thank you very much for.
All right, thank you, Peter, from Benue.
I think on that one, I had said it over time.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm from Enugu State, Nigeria. Yeah, I'm from Alagu community in Ibeze South in Enugu State, and I'm a Muslim. I'm from a Muslim home. I was born a Muslim. My both parents are all Muslims. So I think that's just it. I'm Igbo by tribe, by the way. So
the Muslim and the Uthman.
Yes, yeah.
I've always wanted to ask that question, but I'm like, okay, for some reason we'll forget. But then now, 2 killed as last mile officials driver clash local government offices raise? Are we going to keep seeing more of that? I mean, you know, there's someone said something on social media that caught my attention, saying when people pray prayer, may Nigeria not happen to us. People feel it's just a normal prayer. But in this case, you are inside, you just want to move from point A to point B, and then an oncoming downfall just comes from nowhere because someone is negligent, both the driver and the last mile official. You shouldn't be having to drag steering wheel with each other at some point. There should be a way they can call these people to action without actually having to put people's life at risk.
I would like to take it from the point of that prayer. May Nigeria not happen to us. I think I usually take personal exceptions with some prayers like that when people express it, because if you look at even what Nigeria has done for us as a people and as citizens of this country, you'd understand that it's very unpatriotic and unfair to express such negative prayers on our country. We went to school in this country. We know how much. Personally, myself, I was in ABU Zaria. I could not, from my 100 level to 500 level, studying law in ABU Zaria, my school fees was not up to 120,000 naira till I graduated. Now, it's going to bring me to my next questions about. I'm still coming to address that. Okay. And having said that, there are so many things that Nigeria as a country have done for us that it would be unfair for us and unpatriotic of us to be making some of those comments. I take a very serious exceptions to that. Nation building is a collective effort. We cannot put all the responsibilities on government. But at this point, it's not the government's fault. Okay, I know. I'm coming to address an issue. No, you are saying that it's unpatriotic. Don't you think it's unpatriotic of you to actually be dragging steering wheel with someone where you know that? Let us also accept the fact that it's unpatriotic to first of all make comments of saying may Nigeria not happen to us. That's unpatriotic. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, it remains unpatriotic. Now, coming to issue of the LASMA, it's a known fact that most of these employees of LASMA are normal agboros on the streets, and they boggle them and sew uniform and wear these guys, and then they go to the street and go. Who drew this analysis? There is who drew this analysis? Of what? Of them being former agberos that were given uniforms to wear and then stay on the streets. No, most of them. That's how they got into the. Do you have facts to back up this claim? That's how they got into the job. Okay. Probably I may have. Okay. I may have, because if you look at even in Abuja here, the way they interrupt vehicles. Informal LASMA, because they are not on uniform now. Before you know it, they are going to create. I just wrote to the office of the Honorable Minister recently, because I was invited to a Twitter space where we're addressing the menace of agberos and how they treat drivers in Abuja. On my own volition, as a lawyer, I wrote to the office of the FCT Minister, drawing his attention on how these people treat drivers in Abuja, harass them, bungle into your vehicles and all of that. What do you expect? Do you think that if they were trained formally, they would do this to people? You can't do that. They should be charged for murder. It is criminal to just go into somebody's vehicle. You try to snatch the car key from the person because he beat traffic rule or something of such. You cannot intimidate people in that level. It's not about intimidating people, but you would agree with me that Nigerians, we are hard-headed people. And that does not mean that you should take the laws into your hands. Not dragging steering. Measures to taking life. I totally understand the not dragging steering with them, but now that we've spoken about the problems, what do you think we should be the solutions right now? Instead of entering someone's car to drag the steering wheel with them. We need to address this from the point of employment. Okay. What is the mode of entrance? What is the mode of admission of these people into being a last mile officials? They need to undergo some certain training that has to do with, in collaboration with the road safety and the VIOs to teach them what their job should be. How do you understand the road traffic or the road traffic laws? When people break it, how do you bring them to justice? Is it by taking them by force to take them to your office? Or by what? So these are the issues. You need to first of all subject them to 6 good months or 7 months training before you can now formally employ them. Well, you don't just sew uniform and wear people and they go to the road and begin to harass people. Well, apparently they said they
they train them. So let's.
If they train them, how does it reflect now on their actions?
Well, that begs the question. Let's quickly take this last caller. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press. Hello. Good morning. Hello. All right, we lost that call. Now that the training is not reflecting on these people, what are the possible solutions? Because at this point, okay, we've heard rumors that, oh, there are cameras everywhere in Abuja. If you beat traffic, by the time you get to renew your papers, they've added money and everything on top and say, oh, you are in, maybe your paper is supposed to be 20,000 naira, and then you get there and they tell you your paper is 100 and something thousand naira. You're wondering why. Oh, you beat traffic on so date. Do you think that's actually one way to actually make it work? Or do we need extreme measures? Because even before that said time that you say you get to go to renew your papers, it could cause us accidents. We've had issues of people passing one way and then accidents all over the place. You lose people's lives and all of that. And then you see even the VIOs themselves flaunting others because what? They are VIOs.
You see, the truth is that we need serious attitudinal change in Nigeria, especially with regards to traffic rules. VIPs all over this country beat traffic rules. Whether you are a minister, even as minor as area council chairman in Abuja, they beat traffic rules. The other time we're driving and we're waiting at the traffic light, and they just blew wow and passed, only for us to notice that it's one of the area council chairmen in Abuja. Just imagine these things. So the fact that you are even a leader should confer a sense of responsibility in you, because people who are the led, who are the people you are leading, right, are looking up to you. So whatever actions you've taken transcends to these people that you are leading to take after you.
Does that action justify the word the lawmakers are the lawbreakers?
Well, I cannot really say, because you wouldn't tie it down to the lawmakers are the lawbreakers, because it's not all of them that breaks the law.
But you just said most of these politicians, you get to see the the siren passing.
Most of them. That tells you that some people also do obey the traffic rules, but most of the politicians, they don't. In Abuja here, once there is a changeover of power, you will notice that there is this element of arrogance that is getting into their heads, and the next thing is just to be beating traffic light. And I think, if I've not tried whether I have not confirmed if truly the traffic light has cameras that records when you.
Okay, maybe you.
But that should confirm some level, because Nigeria need carrot and stick approach.
Yes,
if we don't apply that measure, it doesn't work. Maybe this will begin to work. Because even in the morning, when there is no usually physical traffic jam path, people don't obey that traffic light. If it's on red light, whether motor is coming or not ahead, you must have to wait until you have green to pass. But we don't look at it that way. So maybe introduction of this, if it works, may confer some level of restraint and consciousness.
Okay, as a legal practitioner, I would like you to leave a note with our viewers at home, as regards might be economy, might be insecurity, or something going on in the immediate environment that you like to probably chart them towards. Leave something with our viewers.
No, what I'm going to tell the viewers is on areas of law with regards to this election petition, because the election petition is still ongoing. Mr. P2B was on Arise TV about last week, and he was asked whether he could come into Tinubu's government to assist the government in borrowing them what he feels he has that the government doesn't have. Exactly. But he did not answer that question. What he said was that he is interested in making sure that the process through which the president got into power was on a normal channel, that you cannot come through the window and then they will just say let everything be okay. While I want to address that and also make it a kind of an insight to the citizens, is because we need to understand that the law operates based on facts. Right, it doesn't operate based on public opinions or sentiment. So once the fact has been presented before the court, that's what the court is going to rely on, and we should be able to assist the securities to do their job. If you see something, he should say something.
Well, he's only speaking his mind. If he wants to check, then that's okay for him as a Nigerian citizen.
That's what I'm saying. But we are all building our country. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, when he pursues it to the conclusive end and the Supreme Court takes a position, let him please come and borrow us that thing that he has so that Nigeria can move forward. Okay,
all right, our viewers at home, you've heard, if you're supporting obedient, you've heard Uthman Issa Tochukwu has said, we're willing to see if Obi wins, or if he doesn't win, he might actually pass on his knowledge to the party, well, irrespective of which party he's on at this point. All right, thank you, Uthman Issa Tochukwu.
Thank you very much for having me.
With you on the program with us this morning. All our viewers at home, this is where we draw the curtain for today's press. Thank you for your contributions and, of course, your calls. Without you, this program wouldn't have, of course, been a good success. Thank you for calling once more. I remain Mercy Babajide. See you same time, same station tomorrow. Bye.